Welcome to the Wind Up with Will, everyone. I'm your host, Will, here with another episode. And today we're going to be talking about the College Football National Championship as well as the AFC and NFC Championship games that are tomorrow. Now, I'd looked over my shoulder to make sure my door was shut. Um, it's been a few days since my last video. The College Football National Championship was this past Monday, if you didn't know. I took a few days off to mourn my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We unfortunately lost in that game. Ohio State won the game 34-23, 34 to 23. They win the national championship over Notre Dame. Quite the season for Ohio State. Dominant throughout the year. Had a close loss to Oregon early on in the season. That horrible loss to Michigan late in the season. But that loss perhaps rallied them to just completely dominate their way through the playoffs. Their closest game being the championship game against Notre Dame. They dominated Tennessee the first round. They dominated Oregon, who beat them earlier in the year. They beat them by 20 points. They then beat Texas by 14 in the semifinal. Even though I think that game was closer than that, Texas was on the brink of scoring a potential tying touchdown, potentially scoring. There's no guarantee they would get a game tying touchdown. And then Notre Dame made the game close. They was blowout for a good portion of the game. It was 21-7 at halftime. Notre Dame had a 9-minute opening drive essentially to take a 7-0 lead, and I think partly Riley Leonard was wore out after that drive of just running. He ran it I think 5 times on the first possession for Notre Dame. He was a little worn out, and Ohio State's offense was scary good. And I was partly afraid of that going into the game. But Will Howard just picked apart the defense. Their wide receivers were able to get open enough for him to complete passes. They were able to run the ball a little bit. They just moved the ball a lot easier than Notre Dame. I think Riley Mills being out for Notre Dame on the defensive line, that really hurt them. If he was playing in the game, maybe it's a little different. But Notre Dame has had injuries there all season long. I think there's seven defensive linemen that have been injured at parts in the year. So the injuries finally caught up with Notre Dame in that championship game. The offensive line had some injuries and wasn't as good. They weren't able to run the ball effectively. They did make the game interesting late, scoring late in that game to make it close, getting a 2-point conversion. All of a sudden, the game has got kind of like it could maybe swing the right way. It's an 8-point game, and it's 3rd and long. Feels like if Notre Dame can just get the ball back, there's a chance they can tie the game. And Will Howard drops back on 3rd down. Instead of running the ball, trying to run the clock, drops back and throws it to Jeremiah Smith in one-on-one coverage. He catches it and pretty much ices the game at that point. They run a few plays, kick a field goal, they go up 11, and that's the football game. Ohio State showed that you can buy a national championship with NIL. I would like to see some changes with that, but terrific season, terrific college football season, terrific season for my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. If you told me back in September after losing to Northern Illinois that we would not just make the college football playoffs, but play in the national championship game, I would have been ecstatic then. Great season. I'm very happy as a Notre Dame fan and excited for what next season holds. And this is the most I've ever followed college football in a season. Just absolutely terrific season. Love the 12-team playoff format. Absolutely great. There could be some changes. I think everyone agrees there could be some changes to not just the seeding but the format itself. I would like to see some changes, but that's a topic for another time. Great season. Congratulations to Ohio State on winning the national championship. I was not happy about that, but congratulations to them. Now, on to the NFL. We have the NFC and AFC title games this weekend, but before I get to that, I'm going to give you a brief recap of last week's divisional round games. I only actually got to watch I got to watch one game and then part of another game, because last Saturday I was at my Murray State Racers basketball game watching us play Bradley. Unfortunately, we lost that game, but so that kind of cut into me watching the NFL. And then Sunday, I just basically watched the Ravens and Bills. I had some other stuff going on Sunday. So, in the divisional round last Saturday, we had the Texans at the Chiefs. The Chiefs won that game 23-14. Now, there was some questionable calls in that game with late hits on Patrick Mahomes. What should and shouldn't be a late hit? Now, it's taken this game and those very horrible calls for a lot of people to demand change, maybe louder than before. I think there's always been people demanding change. I have been a big proponent of massively changing the roughing the passer call in the NFL because it's atrocious. Because you can watch. I don't have the editing abilities to put the clip here. Go watch the clip where Patrick Mahomes is hit late, and it's called roughing the passer as he's throwing the ball. Like he's literally just let go of the ball, and the defender who's rushing to hit him hits him. Doesn't hit him hard. Doesn't hit him high. Doesn't lead with the helmet, and it's called roughing the passer. I've seen guys that have been hit late, a lot later than that, and they've led with a helmet and nothing's called. I've seen plays where I remember years ago when Clay Matthews for the Packers just like normally sacked Kirk Cousins when he was playing for Washington, and it was roughing the passer. And it was like, isn't that what he's supposed to do? Is tackle the quarterback? So like there's a lot wrong with roughing the passer. I think it should massively change, and there's talks already of that we might see next season replay assist being allowed to use that on roughing the passer. I think that's probably a good thing, and maybe you make roughing the passer and targeting, bring in the targeting rule into the NFL and allow roughing the passer to also be viewed essentially kind of as targeting and those as replay eligible things. Because otherwise, it's just the whim of the refs, and refs are human, whether it's intentional, as some people are saying with the Texans Chiefs game, or whether it's just unintentional, like their angle on the field or whatnot. A lot of those plays are wrong, and I feel like the quarterbacks are way too protected in the NFL. It leads to too many times where your defense maybe has a stop and the offense gets bailed out because the quarterback just got kind of shoved, like not even tackled. He just got kind of shoved because the defender's trying to slow down. He just kind of shoves the quarterback out of the way after the quarterback's let the ball go, and that's roughing the passer. I don't think that that's really fair. I don't think that that's great for the NFL, and a lot of people are calling that out. Now, I do give props to the Chiefs. Chiefs have just found ways to win games all year long. So they're in the AFC title game, number one seed, probably the best team in the NFL again. The other game last Saturday was the Commanders at the Lions. I was thinking it was going to be Bucks at the Lions, but the Commanders, man, they are a team on fire. They go in there and they beat the Lions 45-31. Jaden Daniels is the real deal. I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. Now, of course, that's a regular season award that was voted on weeks ago, but he's just proven it in the playoffs why he is Rookie of the Year and why he is a stud quarterback. He's just done phenomenally. 299 yards in this game, 2 touchdowns, 22-31. Jared Goff threw 3 interceptions in this game. He just did not have a good game at all. And again, this is what I talked about last year when the Lions lost to the 49ers in the NFC title game. Taking those risky plays. You would think that Dan Campbell would learn from last year, but I think it's just who he is, and it's not to blame him. He's a terrific coach, absolutely terrific coach. But just you got to learn that you can't make risky plays all the time. You got to make the smart decisions. I know it's worked out well in the regular season for you, but there's times where you just got to say, we got to make the right decision. And they were down late in the game, and let me see when exactly in the game this was, because the game was still close they when they threw that interception. Let's see, where was it? Where is it? Okay. Yeah, late in the game, Washington gets up 38-28 after all these turnovers have happened, and the Lions are driving. There's what? This is there's a minute 25 in the third quarter, and it's a 10-point game. So you have plenty of time left in this. You've got plenty of time left in the game. Make sure that this is what I am looking at, right? Um, yeah, yeah. It's the third quarter. Yeah, minute 25 left. I don't know why the ESPN app's formatted the way it is, but there's a minute 25 left in the third quarter. Lions are driving. They're on. Where are they at? They're at their own 46-yard line. It's 1st and 10, and they do like a reverse lateral pass to Jamison Williams and doing a trick play, and he throws it downfield into almost double coverage, and Washington picks it. And at that point in the game, that was it. I mean, they were driving, they were moving down the field. That interception changed the game. At that was it. That was the game. The Lions only scored a field goal from there. Washington goes down and gets a touchdown after that. The Lions only get a field goal, and then they throw an interception at the end of the game again. You can't do that. You can't run trick, especially if you're up or if it's a tied game. Fine, run your trick plays. Try and catch them off guard because the other team they're already on. They're either on their heels trying to hold on to the game, or they're on their tiptoes just trying to stay alive. But when you're down 10, you're the team on your heels. You're the team that's backed up. You're the team that needs to make a play, and sometimes those trick plays can work like that. But that's just a risky play to have a non-quarterback player throwing into coverage. And that's not entirely Dan Campbell's fault. Jamison Williams should have been able to read the field and just throw the ball out of bounds. But I think part of that has to be on Dan Campbell for calling that play. And I know he trusts his guys. I know he makes those risky plays. This is the second year in a row that you've had a risky play bite you in the rear and cost you a playoff game. You can't do these all the time. You're going to get bit. When you play with fire, you're occasionally going to get burnt. And that's what's happened with Dan Campbell and the Lions. Now, I would tend to think that if they don't throw that interception, they're going to go down the field and get a touchdown because they were moving the ball well. They'd showed earlier they'd scored 28 points at that point. They were going to go down and get a touchdown, I think. But throwing that interception completely changed the momentum of the game, took full wind out of the sails, and that was the game. Now, the two Sunday games last week were the Rams at the Eagles and Ravens at the Bills. The Eagles outlasted the Rams 28-22. The Eagles were up through the entirety of this game. It was tied briefly in the third quarter at 13 all. But the Eagles scored what? What did they score? They scored 12 straight points in the fourth quarter to take a 28-15 lead before there was a touchdown pass by Matthew Stafford with 2 minutes and 48 seconds left to make it a 6-point game. Now, the Rams did get the ball back at the very end, had a chance to go down. They couldn't convert on a fourth down, and that's how the game ended. Eagles winning 28-22, advancing to the NFC title game and getting to host their rivals in Washington. Exactly how they wanted it to go, instead of having to go to Detroit. Now, the late night game was probably the most anticipated playoff game so far of the playoffs, was the Ravens at the Bills. I was super excited for this game. I watched it. Bills win the game 27-25. This was a terrific game. Lamar Jackson threw an interception in the game, and Mark Andrews, I think there was 4 turnovers in the game. Lamar threw an interception. I think he fumbled it once. Mark Andrews on a drive where they were going down the field fumbled it. The Bills recovered it, and then I believe they immediately went down and scored a touchdown. Let me look at let's see, where is it? Yeah, so Mark Andrews fumbles it. Bills pick it up, go down the field, kick a field goal. So late in the game, so what, 3:23 left in the third quarter. Yeah. Wait, hold on a second. That's not. I despise the ESPN app. I'm sorry. That's not the time. That's the time of the drive. Okay, that's annoying. Yeah, that's annoying. That's not the time in the game. That's how long it took the drive to be. So late in the game. Okay, there it is. With 12 minutes left in the game. So I apologize for the scores I was telling earlier on that. That was the time of the drive, not the time left in the game. So with 12, actually, no, where is it? Nope, there it is. So with 12 minutes left in the game, Ravens are driving. They throw a pass. Lamar throws a pass to Mark Andrews for 16 yards, and he fumbles it. Bills recover. At this time of the game, it's 24-19 Bills. It looks like it's anyone's game. It's kind of been back and forth a little bit. It's been a close game. After the fumble, the Bills go down and kick a field goal and go up 27-19. It's an 8-point game. And with 3:29 left in the game, the Ravens get the ball back, go down the field. They score a touchdown, and it comes down to a 2-point conversion. Can they tie it and force overtime in this game? 2-point conversion attempt thrown to Mark Andrews. He's backing into the end zone off the front of his fingers. Doesn't come up with the catch. Ravens lose the game. He gets a ton of heat afterwards for the fumble and for the missed 2-point conversion. A lot of people saying he should be cut by the Ravens. I think that's a bit dramatic there. But it was a bad game for the Ravens. They had a lot go wrong in this game. Earlier in the game when they scored, let's see, they scored a touchdown. When did they score it? So they had kicked 2 field goals earlier in the game. So when they scored a touchdown, when they were down 21-13, they scored a touchdown and they went for the 2-point conversion. This was with 5:21 left in the third quarter. So there's a whole other quarter left. There's over 20 minutes left in the game. They go for the 2-point conversion then. Instead of just kicking the extra point, they go ahead and start chasing the extra point early. This has always been one of my pet peeves, something I've argued against. You don't try and chase the extra point early because if you don't get it, you're chasing another point later. So, and that's what ended up costing them this game. It's not the Mark Andrews lost the 2-point conversion. You can say the fumble was bad by him. But if they kick the extra point there instead of going for 2, which they fail to get, so it leaves the game at 21-19. If they kick the extra point there at that point, it's 21-20 Buffalo. And so when they score that touchdown at the end of the game, all they need to do is kick the extra point and tie it, and it's going to overtime more than likely. But they had to chase the point earlier. They went for 2, they didn't get it. So then they needed to get the 2-point conversion at the end of the game to try and tie it, when they could have just had the extra point all along. Now that's what's risky of going for 2 early on. That's why if I were a coach, I would not go for 2 as often as some of the other coaches do. But 27-25, Bills win the game. Tough one for my Ravens fans out there. I've got several friends who are Ravens fans. Sorry that y'all lost. I was pulling somewhat for the Ravens because I like Lamar Jackson and I love Derrick Henry. Having been on the Titans for years, I would love to see him get a ring at some point. Maybe one day he'll come back to the Titans. But those were the matchups last weekend, which sets up our conference championship games. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock is the Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles on Fox. Philadelphia is a 6-point favorite in this game, and then the 5:30 showing is on CBS is the Bills at the Chiefs. Just how everyone drew it up to begin the season, and I'm not being sarcastic there. I think a lot of people were picking the Bills and Chiefs to face off in the AFC title game. Yeah, not everyone, of course, but I believe if I were to go back to my preseason predictions, I think I had Bills Chiefs in the AFC title game. I'd have to go look at that. But Kansas City's a 2.5-point favorite in that game. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my predictions for that. I've dragged this video on long enough. I'm going to say in the NFC Championship game, we're going to have the Eagles beat Washington. They're a 6-point favorite. Man, I'm not a betting man, so you shouldn't take my advice on who's going to cover the spread. I think Philadelphia will win. Say 28-22. I say they'll cover by 6 points. I think this game will be close, and it might come down to who has the ball last or if there's a turnover at the end. I think the Eagles are a really good team. They're a really balanced team. They find ways to win. Saquon Barkley is a legit MVP candidate. I'm going to say Eagles win the game 28-22 to win the NFC Championship and go to the Super Bowl. And over in the AFC Championship, Kansas City's a 2.5-point favorite. I say they win 31-28. I think it'll come down to a field goal, probably by Harrison Butker at the end. I think these are two terrific teams. This is another great matchup. I would love to see Josh Allen and the Bills win. I think most of America would love to see Josh Allen and the Bills win. But I think with the home field advantage, I think finding ways to win games, and some people throwing out the conspiracy that the NFL is, maybe not conspiracy, but people saying that the NFL is rigged, that I'm not even going to get into that. I'm not even going to get into that. I just think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I think they're the better team. They have found ways to win all season long. They have a legit good defense. They have the best quarterback in the league. I know his stats aren't as good this year as previous years. There's, in my mind, 5 or 6 guys that are far more legitimate MVP, probably far more than that actually, far more legit MVP candidates than Patrick Mahomes this year. His stats aren't as good as previous seasons, but he is the best quarterback in the league when push comes to shove. And if I'm picking someone that I would want with the ball in his hands in a 2-minute drill in the league right now, it's Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry, that's just how it is, and it's why I am picking the Chiefs to win the AFC Championship game, 31-28, probably on a field goal in the last 2 minutes, or to just walk it off there. So that sets up a Super Bowl of Eagles and Chiefs, and the Super Bowl will be on Sunday, February 9th, 5:30 on Fox this year. If it's Chiefs Eagles, I'm going to pick the Chiefs again. Rematch of a few years ago. But I think that would be a great matchup. But that's who most people don't want in the Super Bowl this year. But if that is the case, I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I think the 2 games tomorrow are going to be great games. I'm looking forward to watching them. I hope you are as well. That's all I've got for this video. Let me know in the comments down below who you think is going to win the NFC and AFC title games tomorrow. What are your thoughts on the college football playoffs? Who on winning the national championship? Of Ohio State winning, my Notre Dame losing. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year? Who's winning the title games tomorrow? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.